I never thought I'd be the guy digging through my wife's phone, but there I was, heart pounding, thumb hovering over her screen. It was a Thursday night and Emily, my wife of 6 years, was in the shower humming some pop song I didn't recognize. Her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter and something called a gut feeling made me pick it up. A notification from a travel app flashed. Spa getaway confirmation, Willow Creek retreat this weekend. My first thought was, she didn't mention any trip. I tapped the notification and the details spilled out. 2 nights, 1 room booked under her name. No big deal, right? Except when I asked her about it later, drying her hair in our bedroom, she barely looked up. "Oh, it's just a girls' trip," she said, tossing out names of friends I hadn't heard her mention in months. "You know, to unwind from all the routine." Her voice was casual, but her eyes darted away, and that's when I knew something was off. Emily was a terrible liar. Always had been. The next morning, I couldn't shake the feeling. While she was at work, I did something I'm not proud of. I checked her phone again. The travel app was still open, and I saw the booking details, hadn't mentioned any girls, just her. And then I noticed a text from a contact labeled work, Ryan. Ryan, her co-worker, the guy she'd mentioned a few times, always with a laugh like he was harmless. The text was simple. "Can't wait for this weekend. Willow Creek's going to be amazing." My chest tightened. I opened her social media and there it was. Ryan's profile, the post about needing a nature escape this weekend. Same dates, same vibe. No mention of a fiancé, no group, just him and apparently my wife. I sat there staring at the screen, the pieces clicking together. Emily wasn't going with the girls. She was going with him. I could have confronted her right then. Stormed into her office, made a scene, demanded answers. But I didn't. Instead, I took a breath and scrolled through Ryan's profile until I found her, his fiancée, Lauren. Her picture was all smiles, a radiant brunette with a bio about living for love and adventure. She didn't deserve this. Neither did I, so I did something reckless. I found her contact through a mutual friend's page and sent her a message. "Hey, Lauren. This is Jake, Emily's husband. I found something you should see." I attached screenshots of the booking, Ryan's texts, his post. My hands shook as I had sent. Within an hour, she replied, "I can't believe this. Can we talk?" I didn't hesitate. "Come over tonight. I know how much this hurts, but I've got an idea." Lauren showed up at my door around 8. Her eyes red, but her jaw set. She was even more stunning in person, tall with a quiet strength, like she was holding herself together by sheer will. I poured her a coffee and we sat at my kitchen table. The screenshots spread out like evidence in a crime scene. "I thought he was working late this week," she said, her voice breaking. "He told me he needed space to clear his head." I nodded, feeling the same betrayal twist inside me. Emily said it was a girls' trip. I believed her until I saw his name. We talked for hours, swapping stories of little lies we'd ignored, moments we brushed off. Ryan's late nights at the office, Emily's sudden work dinners. It was like we were piecing together the same puzzle and the picture was ugly. But somewhere in that conversation, something shifted. Maybe it was the way Lauren's laugh broke through her tears when I admitted I'd never snooped before, or how her hand brushed mine when she reached for her mug, and neither of us pulled away. "What's your idea, Jake?" she asked, leaning closer. Her voice soft but curious. I looked at her and the words came out before I could overthink them. "They're off playing their game this weekend. Why don't we play one, too? Spend the weekend here. Not to hurt them, just to feel something real for once." Her eyes widened, but she didn't say no. Instead, she smiled, a slow, dangerous smile that made my pulse race. "You mean like, take back what they stole?" "Exactly," I said. "They're out there thinking they're so clever. Let's show them we're not just waiting around." She hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, I'm in." That night, she didn't leave. We stayed up talking, then laughing, then closer, her hand on my arm, my fingers grazing her cheek. By the time we ended up in my bedroom, it wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about us. Two people who'd been lied to, finding something honest in each other. The weekend stretched out ahead, and for the first time in months, I wasn't dreading it. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of coffee and the soft clink of a mug being set on the nightstand. Lauren was already up, her dark hair tied back, wearing one of my old t-shirts that hung loose on her frame. She looked at me with a small, almost shy smile like we were both still figuring out what we'd started. "Hope you don't mind," she said, nodding at the coffee. I figured we'd need it. I sat up, the sheets slipping down, and took the mug. The warmth of it grounded me, but my head was still spinning from last night. We hadn't planned for things to go that far. Talking turning into touching, then kissing, then more. But it felt right, like we were both starving for something real, something neither of us had felt in too long. I looked at her, standing there in my kitchen light, and realized I didn't regret a second of it. "Mind?" "No," I said, grinning. "You're already making yourself at home." She laughed, a sound that felt like it could chase away the weight of the last few days. We spent the morning easy, like we'd known each other forever. I made pancakes. She teased me for burning the first batch, and we ate at the counter, trading stories about nothing and everything. Her laugh was infectious, her eyes bright with a fire I hadn't seen in Emily in years. It wasn't just about the betrayal anymore. It was about how Lauren made me feel seen, wanted, alive. By noon, we were sprawled on the couch, her legs draped over mine, a half-empty bottle of wine on the coffee table. The TV was on some dumb reality show neither of us cared about, but it filled the quiet, she said, swirling her glass. "I keep waiting to feel guilty, like I'm supposed to be crying over Ryan or something, but I don't." I nodded, understanding exactly what she meant. Same. Emily's out there probably thinking she's got me fooled. But sitting here with you, I don't even care. She looked at me, her eyes searching mine, and then leaned in, her lips brushing against my jaw. "Good," she whispered. "Because I'm not done with you yet." The rest of the day blurred into moments I knew I'd never forget. Her laughter echoing in the hallway as we chased each other to the bedroom. The way her fingers traced patterns on my back as we lay there, catching our breath. The quiet of the kitchen as we cooked dinner together. Her hip bumping mine. Both of us pretending we weren't stealing glances. It wasn't just physical, though that was electric. It was the way we talked, really talked, about dreams we buried, fears we'd never voiced. She told me about wanting to travel, to see places Ryan always dismissed as too far. I admitted how I'd stopped writing, something I used to love, because Emily thought it was a waste of time. With Lauren, it felt like I could be me again, not just the guy playing house with a woman who checked out. Saturday night, we stayed up late, wrapped in a blanket on the back porch, the stars sharp above us. She rested her head on my shoulder and I could smell her shampoo. Something floral and unfamiliar, so different from Emily's. "What happens when they come back?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't have an answer. Not a real one. "We deal with it," I said. "Together, if you want." She tilted her head to look at me, and the moonlight caught her eyes. "I want." Sunday morning came too fast. We were slower, softer, like we both knew the clock was ticking. Lauren helped me tidy up, but we left traces of her everywhere. A scarf on the couch, her perfume lingering on the pillows, a pair of earrings on the nightstand. It wasn't intentional. Not really, but it felt right. Let Emily see. Let her wonder. By the time we heard the car pull into the driveway, my heart was steady. Lauren was in the bedroom, her voice drifting out as she hummed to herself. And I was in the kitchen pouring a glass of water, calm as anything. The front door opened and Emily stepped in, her hair messy, her smile forced. "Hey babe," she said, dropping her bag. "Missed you." Her eyes flicked around and I saw the moment she noticed the scarf. The faint scent in the air. Her smile faltered. "What's that?" she asked, pointing at the couch. I shrugged, leaning against the counter. "Oh, just something from the weekend. You had your rest, right?" "Funny thing. So did I." Her face changed, confusion turning to something sharper. But before she could say anything, Lauren's voice called out from the bedroom. "Jake, you see my shoes?" Emily froze, her eyes wide, and I just smiled. This was going to be interesting. Emily stood in the doorway, her bag still dangling from her shoulder, her eyes darting between the scarf on the couch and me, leaning casually against the kitchen counter. Her face was a mix of confusion and something else. Panic maybe, or the dawning realization that her carefully spun story was unraveling. "What's going on, Jake?" she asked, her voice tight like she was trying to keep it together. I took a slow sip of water, letting the moment stretch, savoring the way her confidence crumbled. "Just had a relaxing weekend," I said, my tone light, almost playful. "You know, like you did. How was your girls' trip, by the way?" Feeling refreshed. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Before she could recover, Lauren stepped out of the bedroom, her hair slightly mussed, wearing one of my button-down shirts, the sleeves rolled up. She looked effortless, radiant, and completely at ease, like she belonged here. "Found them," she said, holding up a pair of sneakers, then stopped when she saw Emily. "Oh, hi," she added, her voice polite, but with a sharp edge, like she was daring Emily to make a move. Emily's gaze snapped to Lauren, then back to me, her cheeks flushing red. "Who is she?" she demanded, her voice rising. "Jake, what the hell is this?" I set my glass down, crossing my arms. "This is Lauren. We met because, well, funny story. Turns out your girls' trip wasn't exactly what you said it was. Brian's fiancé here had some questions about his weekend plans, and we got to talking." Emily's face went pale, her bag slipping to the floor with a soft thought. "Ryan, what are you talking about?" she stammered, but the lie was flimsy and she knew it. Lauren stepped closer, her smile cool and controlled. "He's talking about the spa getaway you two planned. Willow Creek, right? I saw the texts, the booking, his little nature post. You're not as sneaky as you think." Emily's eyes widened and for a second I thought she might bolt. Instead, she turned to me, her voice shaking. "Jake, this isn't what it looks like. I swear it was just a work thing. We were just save it." I cut her off, my voice steady but cold. "You lied to my face, Emily. You looked me in the eye and told me it was a girls' trip. I trusted you. And you played me. So yeah, Lauren came over. We talked. We laughed. And you know it. It felt good to be with someone who doesn't lie to me." Lauren moved to my side, her shoulder brushing mine, a silent show of solidarity. Emily's gaze flicked between us and I could see the gears turning, the desperation to spin this back in her favor. "So what? You slept with her?" she spat, her voice breaking. "In our house, in our bed." I didn't flinch. "You don't get to play the victim here. You made your choice when you booked that room with Ryan. I'm done being the idiot who believes you." The air was thick, the silence heavy with everything unsaid. Emily's eyes filled with tears, but I didn't feel the urge to comfort her. Not like I used to. Lauren broke the tension. Her voice calm but firm. "You should probably go, Emily. Unless you want to explain why you thought cheating was a great weekend plan." Emily's jaw tightened, and for a moment, I thought she'd argue, but then her shoulders slumped. She grabbed her bag and stormed out, the door slamming behind her. The house felt quieter, like it could finally breathe. Lauren turned to me, her expression softening. "You okay?" she asked, her hand resting lightly on my arm. I nodded, though my chest felt tight. "Yeah, better than I thought I'd be." She smiled and it was like the sun breaking through clouds. "Good, because I'm not going anywhere yet." We spent the rest of the day cleaning up the emotional mess Emily left behind. Lauren helped me change the sheets, not because we had to, but because it felt like a fresh start. We cooked lunch together, her teasing me about my knife skills, me pretending to be offended. It was easy, natural, like we've been doing this for years. Later, we sat on the couch, her head resting on my chest, and talked about what came next. "I don't know what this is," I admitted, my fingers brushing through her hair. "But I know I don't want it to stop." She looked up at me, her eyes steady. "Me neither. Ryan's out of my life, and I'm not looking back. If you're in, I'm in." I kissed her then, slow and deliberate, like I was sealing a promise. The rest of the evening was ours. Quiet moments, shared glimpses, the kind of connection I'd forgotten was possible. By night, we were back in the bedroom. Not out of spite, but because we wanted to be there together. Emily's absence was a distant thought, a shadow that couldn't touch us. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But for the first time in years, I was excited to find out. The days after Emily stormed out felt like stepping into a new world, one where the air was lighter and the shadows of her lies couldn't reach me. Lauren stayed through Monday, not because we planned it, but because neither of us wanted to let go of what we'd found. We woke up tangled in each other, sunlight streaming through the bedroom window, her breath warm against my neck. "Morning," she murmured, her voice sleepy but content, and I couldn't help but smile. It was the kind of moment I hadn't realized I'd been missing. Simple, honest, real. We spent the morning in the kitchen or perched on the counter while I scrambled eggs, her teasing me about my cooking playlist, some old rock tune she pretended to hate but sang along to anyway. "You're such a dad with this music," she laughed, tossing a dish towel at me. I caught it, grinning, and pulled her close, her legs wrapping around me as we kissed, the eggs nearly burning in the pan. It wasn't just the physical pull, though that was undeniable. It was the way we fit, like pieces of a puzzle I didn't know I'd been trying to solve. By afternoon, we were sprawled on the living room floor. A half-finished board game between us, her competitive streak coming out as she accused me of cheating. "You totally moved that piece when I wasn't looking," she said, narrowing her eyes. But her smile gave her away. I leaned across the board, kissing her until she forgot her fake outrage. The game abandoned as we ended up laughing, limbs tangled on the rug. It was easy to forget the mess waiting outside these walls. Emily, Ryan, the fallout of their betrayal. But reality crept in when my phone buzzed with a text from Emily. "We need to talk. I'm sorry, Jake. Can I come home?" I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering, and Laura noticed. She sat up, her expression soft but steady. "You don't have to answer her," she said. "Not until you're ready." I set the phone down, running a hand through my hair. I don't even know what I'd say. She thinks she can just apologize and make this go away. After everything, Laura nodded, her hand finding mine. "She's panicking because she got caught. Ryan's probably doing the same with me. I got a voicemail from him last night. Oh babe, it was a mistake. Like that fixes it." We sat there, the weight of their betrayal settling over us, but it didn't crush us like it might have a week ago. Instead, it felt like a bridge we'd already crossed. "What did you do?" I asked. "Deleted it," she said, shrugging. "He doesn't get to decide my life anymore. And Emily doesn't get to decide yours." Her words hit me hard. Not because they were new, but because they were true. I'd spent years letting Emily's needs, her moods, her excuses shape my world. No more. I pulled Lauren close, her head resting against my chest, and we stayed like that, the silence saying more than words could. Tuesday came and Lauren had to go back to her place to grab some things. I drove her. The car filled with easy conversation, her hand resting on my knee. Her apartment was small but warm, filled with plants and books, a space that felt like her, vibrant, alive. She packed a bag, tossing in clothes and a toothbrush, and caught me watching. "What?" she asked, smirking. "Just thinking you look good in my life," I said, and her smile softened like I'd said something she'd been hoping to hear. Back at my place, we fell into a rhythm. She worked remotely from my dining table, her laptop open while I tackled some overdue projects in the garage. Every so often, I'd catch her eye through the window, and she'd wink, a small gesture that made my chest warm. Dinner was takeout, eaten on the couch, her feet in my lap as we watched a movie neither of us paid attention to. It was domestic, almost too perfect, and I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. Late that night, lying in bed, her body curled against mine, I asked the question that had been nagging me. "What happens now, Lauren, with us?" She shifted, propping herself up on one elbow, her eyes searching mine in the dark. "I don't know," she admitted. "But I know I want to find out. I'm not saying we jump into something serious, but I'm not ready to walk away either. Are you?" I shook my head, my hand tracing the curve of her shoulder. "No, I want this, whatever it is." She kissed me slow and deep, and it felt like an answer. The rest of the week stretched out, full of possibility. Emily's texts kept coming, each one more desperate, but I didn't respond. Not yet. Lauren and I weren't hiding, but we weren't flaunting anything either. We were just living, building something new from the ashes of what we'd lost. And for the first time in years, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. A week later, life felt like it had shifted into a new gear, one I hadn't known existed. Lauren was still around, not just as a guest, but as part of my days, her presence woven into the rhythm of the house. We'd fallen into a routine that felt both thrilling and steady. Mornings with coffee and her teasing me about my terrible whistling. Afternoons where she'd work at the dining table while I tinkered in the garage. Evenings where we'd cook together or collapse on the couch. Her legs over mine, laughing at nothing. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest, and that was more than I'd had in years. Emily's texts had slowed to a trickle, each one a variation of the same plea. "Jake, please, let's talk. I messed up, but we can fix this." I hadn't responded, not because I was angry, though I was, but because I didn't know her my time anymore. Lauren had deleted Ryan's messages, too. Her phone now free of his excuses. We didn't talk much about them, not out of avoidance, but because they felt like ghosts, fading with every day. We chose ourselves instead. One evening, as we sat on the back porch, the air cool and the sky still with pink, Lauren turned to me, a glass of wine in her hand. "You ever think about what we'd be doing right now if none of this happened?" she asked, her voice thoughtful. I leaned back, considering probably the same old routine. Me pretending everything's fine. Emily dodging questions. "You with Ryan doing the same?" She nodded, her eyes on the horizon. "Yeah, I don't miss it. Not even a little." I reached for her hand, her fingers lacing through mine. "Me neither. It's better." She smiled, the kind that made my chest ache in the best way, and leaned her head on my shoulder. We stayed like that, the world quiet except for the crickets and the soft rustle of leaves. It was a moment I wanted to bottle, to keep forever. But life doesn't pause. And the next day brought a new challenge. Emily showed up at the house and announced, her car idling in the driveway. I was in the kitchen chopping vegetables for lunch when the doorbell rang. Lauren, reading on the couch, looked up, her brow furrowing. "You expecting anyone?" she asked. I shook my head, wiping my hands on a towel, and opened the door. Emily stood there, her eyes red, her hair pulled back in a messy bun. "Jake," she said, her voice small. "Can we talk just for a minute?" I felt Lauren's presence behind me, a quiet strength. "What's there to say, Emily?" I asked, keeping my tone even. "You made your choice." Her gaze flicked past me, landing on Lauren, and her face tightened. "So, this is it? You're just moving on with her?" Lauren stepped forward, her voice calm, but firm. "He's not the one who broke things, Emily. You did that when you lied. When you snuck off with Ryan, you don't get to walk in here and act like the victim." Emily's eyes filled with tears, but I didn't feel the pull to fix it. Not like I used to. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice breaking. "I didn't mean for it to happen. It was a mistake." I crossed my arms unmoved. "A mistake is forgetting to pay a bill. You planned a weekend with another man. You lied to my face for weeks. That's not a mistake. That's a choice." She opened her mouth, then closed it like she knew there was no way to spin this. "I still love you, Jake," she whispered. I shook my head. "You love the idea of me, maybe, but you didn't love me enough to be honest. I'm done, Emily. You should go." She stood there frozen, then turned and walked back to her car, her shoulders slumped. The engine started, and she drove away, the sound fading into the distance. Lauren slipped her hand into mine, squeezing gently. "You okay?" she asked, her eyes searching mine. "Yeah," I said, and I meant it. "I'm free." The rest of the day felt like a weight had lifted. We finished lunch laughing over the slightly overcooked vegetables and spent the afternoon walking through a nearby park, her hand in mine, the world bright and full of possibility. That night, we lay in bed, her head on my chest, and talked about the future. Not big plans, but small ones like a weekend trip somewhere quiet or trying a new restaurant. It wasn't about replacing what we'd lost. It was about building something new, something ours. Weeks turned into months and Lauren became more than a partner in healing. She became my home. Emily faded into the background. A chapter closed. Ryan was gone from Lauren's life, too. His apologies ignored. We weren't perfect, but we were real. And that was enough. One evening, as we sat on the couch, her reading a book and me sketching ideas for a project, I looked at her and realized I was happy. Truly, deeply happy. What? She asked, catching my stare, her lips curving into a smile. Just thinking I'm lucky, I said. She leaned over, kissing me softly. We both are. If you're listening to this story, I hope it hit you as hard as it did me to live it. What would you have done in my shoes? Drop a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. Your support keeps me